Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 33. We are finishing Matthew chapter 21 today. And what we're going to see is a similar theme throughout these verses as Jesus tells a couple of different parables and relates them all back to the same idea. So at the first part of what we read here, verse 23, we're looking at a section where the Pharisees are challenging Jesus's authority. And so they ask him a question. Of course, they're trying to trap him. And one of the great parts about the Bible are these stories about how people are trying to trap Jesus, and he always escapes that trap. And in this instance, they're asking, by what authority does he do these things? And so he, of course, counters with his own question. And he knows the Pharisees are political enough to avoid answering the question truthfully, which helps him avoid answering the question that they want him to answer. And so he says, okay, you don't know the answer, then I'm not going to tell you by whose authority I do all this stuff. And then it leads into the parable of the two sons, which talks about how the father asked the son to go and work in the vineyard, and the first one says, no, I don't want to do that, and then regrets it and goes back and does it. The second one says, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and then does not. And so what we see here is this idea of lip service. And Jesus is talking to these Pharisees and chief priests and saying, look, you can say all you want to say and you can be as religious as you want to be, but unless you actually do something or change your heart, then it's not going to matter. And he even references the prostitutes and tax collectors as those who will be in the kingdom of heaven before the Pharisees, just referencing the idea that those who believed in Jesus, didn't matter what they did before, if they were the ones to believe in him, then they would receive the kingdom of heaven. And so then he goes into the parable of the tenants, and that's where people would lease the land to work it. And in this case, he sends the servants down, the landowner sends servants down, and the tenants end up beating these servants. And so he sends more servants, and the same thing happens. And so finally, he sends his son and says, this is my son, surely they'll respect him. And of course, the story is that they throw him out of the vineyard and kill him. And it's this idea that goes back to the scripture in Psalms that it references. And it says, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. So Jesus, of course, representative of the Son, God says, I sent all these different things your way. You had the Ten Commandments, you had Moses, you had the prophets, all of these things before I sent Jesus. And he finally sends his son as the heir and says, if I send my son, then they'll get the picture. And of course, we know that they don't. And they reject him as the Messiah, and they end up killing him in the same way that this parable plays out. So it's a foreshadowing of what's to come. And one thing that really stood out to me here was that we've talked several times about these people in that time missing the point. And I know it's hindsight, we see on this side of the resurrection, it's like, how do they keep missing it? How do they keep missing it? But we have the same issue today where you're going to have people coming into church and they're going to say, yeah, I believe that, there's God and the Bible, and I believe it's true, but they don't actually have that relationship with Christ. And they're going to miss the point as well. And so a lot of times we can, if we're not careful, people we know are very similar to the Pharisees, where they'll say, yeah, I believe in God, and I believe that the Bible's true. But when we actually drill down and say, but do you have a relationship with Christ, and are you striving after him? Then we have to start looking at the heart issue. And so I would encourage you today to talk to your friends, talk to your family, Make sure that you know where they stand. Be bold in your faith, and hopefully you will find that the old and new covenant bridge together here in Jesus. Your friends and family accept that as well. And so I'm praying today for you to share your faith with those you know and those that you meet. All right, have a great day.